Peter Schiff Show.
Welcome to the show. Now, Craig Beamer is the proprietor of the Oasis Cafe in Stillwater, Minnesota. He's run that cafe for the past 6 years. Prior to that, he had a corporate job. He was in sales and marketing. He worked at 3M. He went to University of Wisconsin, graduated in 1982, had a degree in finance with a minor in marketing. Craig, welcome to the Peter Schiff Show.
Hi, Peter. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so you kind of made headlines because as the minimum wage in Minnesota was increased from the federal minimum $7.25 to a now state minimum of $8. That increase became effective on August 1st. And obviously, being in the restaurant business, you do employ quite a few people probably that made under $8 an hour. And now legally, you have to pay them $8 an hour or you have to fire them. And clearly, you can't fire all your employees. Maybe there was some that you were able to lay off, but you needed to raise some. And obviously, your costs go up. And as all businessmen, when costs go up, you have to raise your prices because all the costs are borne by the customers. That's where the money comes from. If there's anything left over, you get a profit, but you got to get all the money from the customers. So you decided, right, instead of just raising your prices, you put a surcharge on to cover the added cost, right?
That is correct.
And how, is it a flat? I read it's 35 cents. Do you just pay 35 cents regardless of how much money you spend? Just every table pays the extra 35 cents?
What we did is we did an analysis of how much the increase in minimum wage was going to cost us over a year, and we divided that by the number of tickets that we project that we'll process over that same period. We came up with about 25 cents. Then we added the additional payroll taxes, unemployment insurance, things that future growth, and we threw a dime at that to cover the other costs that we identified.
Now, right. So now, when customers come into the restaurant, though, is that disclosed before they order? Is it right on the menu, like with a little asterisk, like where they say, gratuity will be added for 8 or more? Does it say that 35 cents will be added to every check to cover the increased minimum wage?
Looking back, that is a mistake that I made. We chose just to add it. Honestly, we didn't see it as a big deal. So many of our suppliers have similar charges. It was never intended to be some grand political statement. We did not do that, and at this point, we really don't need to because of all the attention that it's got. But no,
although I would think
looking back, I should have posted something.
Yeah, well, I think you should, because on the menu, because if somebody is looking at a let's say a hamburger and let's say it's $7, they need to know, because if you would have just raised prices instead of added 35 cents, maybe it would be $7.05 or whatever you would have done. But I think that you need to disclose up front so people know what the true cost is, that there is an added surcharge, and just as long as they know going in that they're going to pay the surcharge, then there should be no problem with it. But that's not what people are objecting to, right? People don't seem to be objecting to the fact that they didn't know about an event. They're objecting to the fact that it's even there, right?
They're objecting to a lot of different things. Some of the misconceptions are that the public believes that we pay all of our employees minimum wage, which couldn't be further from the truth. My dishwashers make $10 to $11 an hour. My cooks make $12 to $16 an hour. And frankly, the only people that make minimum wage are my servers, who, if you add the tips that they make, even on weekdays, they're averaging $20, $25 an hour, and they'll push $30, $35 an hour on weekends.
Well, were the servers, the tipped people, were they exempt from the increase, or are they subject to it as well?
No, Minnesota is one of 7 states in the U.S. that does not have any tip credit. So we have to pay them the $8 minimum wage just like anyone else, which is one of the real problems. Which is this whole issue would never have had to have happened if Minnesota would join the 43 other states and add tip credit to the minimum wage laws.
Mm-hmm. Although one thing that you could do, if that's the case, I mean, you could certainly raise your prices a little bit and then encourage your customers to tip less. You could say, look, don't tip 15%, tip 10 or something, because you could say that, they're making, you could find a way around the law, by just reducing their tips and just having your customers pay a little bit of a higher price. So the customer is still paying the same amount of money. Or you can even go to a model where you say no tipping, right? You can have a big sign, don't tip, and just pay people more and get around it that way, couldn't you?
Yeah, as far as raising prices, when I bought the restaurant back in 2008, our average order is about $5. Over the last 6 years, for a variety of reasons, our average order has increased to about $10. One of the primary reasons we did what we did is of a concern that if our price got much over $10, that we would start losing customers. And another thing that people aren't understanding is this year it's 75 cents. Next year it goes up another $1, and the year after that it goes up another 50 cents. So we're really looking at, when this is all said and done, adding $2.25 to of pure cost. And that's
you said, when you're saying the average. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was going to say that will bring our average order, if we were to include it in prices, $12, $13, maybe even $14, depending on how many servers we're running on the floor at that particular time.
Yeah,
I don't think people are going to pay that kind of money for breakfast or lunch.
Yeah, when you're saying when you say your average order's gone from $5 to $10, is this because your customers are eating more food, or eating more? Are they eating a higher quality of food, or is just the same food, just inflation resulting in people having to pay higher prices to eat the same meal?
It's a combination of things. We've certainly upgraded our menu. We've upgraded our staff. We've upgraded our facility. All these are costs that have gone into causing us to increase our average order. The average order has not been a problem, or increasing it. Our business actually, since I bought it in 2008, has grown at a rate about 8 to 9%. Last fall, we did a major remodel and rebranding. Since then, our business has been running about 135% year-to-date ahead of previous year. So
if you think people are going to be reluctant to, let's say, pay the extra $2 or $2.50 that might be required by the time the extra increases in minimum wage kick in, and of course by then inflation will have driven your other costs higher as well. So you may be increasing prices $3 or $4 or maybe more.
Exactly.
But do you think they're going to eat there if it's a supplement or a surcharge? I mean, are they likely to pay the extra money if they know it's all going to higher wages, or do you think they don't care, they're just not going to eat there? But you're just trying to be upfront about why you're having to raise your prices.
Yeah, our original motivation is intended to be honest and transparent in our pricing. With regards to how this whole thing is going to shake out, I'll tell you in a couple months, get back to me. At this point, I can tell you last week our business was 152% of the same week prior. I can tell you I got a full restaurant right now. We're tracking well. Admittedly, I think part of that is from a groundswell of new customers coming in that are coming in to support what we've done. Everyone seems to get caught up in all the negative going out on Twitter and Facebook and all of that. There's for every person that's upset with what we've done, there's many that are supporting of what we've done, thinking that businesses and government should in fact be more transparent with what the costs are.
Yeah, I mean the critics, are probably make a lot more noise, but most people that are probably criticizing you weren't going to eat in your restaurant anyway. They weren't your customers, but now you've probably picked up a lot of new customers that didn't know about the restaurant that want to show their support by showing up. So I'm sure from a publicity standpoint, it was a good move for you.
Yeah, well, again, I think time will tell. I think it's too early to tell that. I can tell you that I drill down on many of the Facebook accounts of people that are, spreading all the hate that they're spreading. And they're more likely to be from other states than our state. People doing reviews on bad experiences at our restaurant from, Portland, Oregon, and California, and, all kinds of different states outside of our geographical area. So I think your point is well made as far as the impact that it's having and the negative responses we're having as far as.
But are you finding too
that?
Are you finding that most of the negative responses, though, are also coming from people who are big supporters, big proponents of higher minimum wages, and who probably think that $8 an hour isn't enough and would like $10 or $15 an hour as a minimum wage?
I think there's a lot of different motivations going out there. On Facebook, I will engage people if they send me a message. I have not engaged anyone on the Facebook walls. And what I'm finding is there is a real built-up frustration by a lot of people who are being forced to work in minimum wage jobs and aren't able to get work beyond 20-25 hours a week because businesses are cutting back hours to try to avoid, health care costs from the Obamacare program.
Although, you said people are being forced to work at minimum wage jobs. I mean, nobody's really forced to take any job, right? You voluntarily take a job. So if you take a minimum wage job, it's probably because that's the best job you can find, right? If you can find a better job, you take that one.
I understand that, you understand that, but the reality is the masses out there they blame other things for the position that they are in life. They're frustrated. They're angry. They want to reach out and hurt people that they think are doing to others what people are doing to them.
And you mentioned too that most of your employees you're already paying them more than the minimum wage, right? So I mean, the minimum wage doesn't even really apply to most of your workers.
Yeah, like I said, my dishwashers make $10 to $11 an hour when the market in this area is $8 to $9. My cooks make $12 to $16 per hour when the market is $10 to $12. One of the biggest ironies of this whole thing is I pay my people really, really well.
Why? Why do you do that? Why not just paying the minimum wage?
Actually, before I get into that, I'd like to address your last statement. There are other things that a restaurant can do to offset additional costs. They can reduce hours of their servers, which will lower costs. They can make portion size smaller. These were all. They could even change the format of the restaurant from a server being in the equation to you stand in line, place your order, pick your food up, or stand in line, place your order, and
but all those things are like. Yeah, but that's still like raising prices because if I get less food, it's like I'm paying more for food. Or if I have to serve myself, it makes the experience less enjoyable. I'd rather have somebody pump the gas than pump it myself. But that's what happened with gas stations. You got minimum wage laws, and so they got rid of all the gas pumpers, and now you pump it yourself. And so the prices didn't have to go up as much. But now you got to get out of the car in the rain, and you got to pump your own gas. So it's all about increasing costs, whether it's a lower quality or a higher price. So, but at the end of the day, it all has to come from the consumer. One way or another, the customer has to bear all the costs that you incur in running your restaurant, and there has to be enough left over for you to make a profit. Otherwise, what are you doing it for, right? So you got to make some money too.
Absolutely agree. I just wanted to make sure people understood that there are other ways to deal with it. With regards to why I've done what I've done, or as far as pay people more, I think it's good business. I don't know so much about other business, but in the restaurant business, we're no better than the people working here. I hire good cooks because they know what they're doing when it comes to engineering your menus, when it comes to preparing the food on our menus, when it comes to having a full restaurant with lines of 20, 30 people out the door. I hire people that are capable of handling those situations. I pay them more because they're more likely to continue working for me. They're going to be happier employees. There's going to be a better team approach to the business, et cetera, et cetera.
So what you're doing, though, is you're probably getting a higher caliber of individual because you're paying $2 or $3 more than minimum wage. You're getting a better worker than if you just hired one at the minimum wage because you're out competing other restaurants for the top quality guys, so you're getting what you pay for. But my point is, even if they eliminated the minimum wage, if you're paying a guy above the minimum wage right now and the minimum wage didn't exist, theoretically that would have no effect right? Because you're paying for the quality that you're getting, and if you are paying somebody $10 an hour when the minimum wage is $8, even if the minimum wage were $0, you'd still pay them $10, wouldn't you?
Undoubtedly.
Yeah, but what might you do as a businessman? Let's assume there was no minimum wage whatsoever. Do you think there might be some more jobs that you could come up with for younger kids with less skill? Might they be able to help out at your restaurant a little bit if you didn't have to pay them the minimum wage and deal with all the other costs associated with payroll?
In the restaurant business, I hesitate to hire people that are younger, primarily because there's OSHA laws that make it impossible for them to do some of the work that we require. I also, unfortunately, at least in our market, find that young people don't have a real strong work ethic. There's certainly exceptions to.
Well, what about even older? I mean, might you have more job opportunities? Would you have more hostesses or a greeter or a valet parker, or might there be some more employment opportunities for anybody if you didn't have to deal with the minimum wage? Because there might be some jobs that maybe you figure, well, for $6 an hour, yeah, I can hire somebody to do that. But if I had to pay, $8 an hour, I'll just let the customer do it themselves. Do you have a coat check person? I mean, there are a lot of jobs, right, that you could come up with that you might not have because the labor laws price them out of the market.
I think that's a fair statement. I think added to that, if the government would not force minimum wage on us, we could more naturally grow our business. Therefore, we would also add jobs through the growth of the business.
Yeah. And what are you afraid, where is the minimum wage going to, this is just the first salvo. Where is it going to end up in Minnesota?
Well, in Minnesota, this year it went up 75 cents. Next year it's scheduled to go up another $1. A year after that, it's supposed to go up to another 50 cents. It'll end up at $9.50, at least at this point. Yeah. That's what their plan is. Which, frankly, I have no problem with. I really don't. As I said before, everyone except my servers are paid more than that amount. What I have a
what
problem
about other?
With
Do you know other restaurateurs or maybe different types of restaurants that really are more at maybe a lower price point and so are relying on minimum wage? And how do you think they might handle such a big increase in their labor costs?
Well, first of all, I want to finish my thought with regards to not having a problem with minimum wage. What I have a problem with is Minnesota not having a tip credit in its minimum wage laws like 43 other states. If Minnesota were to add a tip credit to it, where they realistically count a percentage of tips that our servers receive towards what their wage is, then they can do whatever they want with minimum wage because we're all playing on the same field.
Yeah. Although again, hey Craig, I hate to really catch up, but we got to go because we're out of time. So I really appreciate what it takes to run a small business, and I apologize for any negative emails you get from people that just don't understand how business works or how free markets work. But I appreciate what you're doing, and I'm glad that so far you're benefiting from your decision.